Chairs, Emerald, all the members of the committee. For the record, my name is Robin Morris Collin. I am a law professor, and I'm honored to be here today in my role as commissioner serving on the Oregon Commission for Black Affairs. Our commission has done some research and found that a large proportion of Oregonians working for minimum wage are women, heads of household, and many of them are African American women. It's an honor to be here to be able to address your discussion of raising the minimum wage, and I'm here to support the raise in the minimum wage. Women of color are important shareholders in the discussion, and thank you for holding an evening session and allowing us to participate. Our commissions profoundly believe in the American credo, that if you work hard enough in America, you can succeed. We share the belief in this land of opportunity, and yet, when people are working 2 and 3 jobs, up to 80 hours a week, and are still unable to pay their bills, have food at the end of the month, can't pay for health care or education, we are undermining the foundation of our collective beliefs. We are undermining our families, and we are undermining our communities. In many other countries with inadequate wages, those inadequate wages are offset by the provision of public health services, free or subsidized child care, subsidized housing, and public transportation. Here in Oregon, we are largely telling poor women and women heads of household who are poor to make it on their own. The consequences fall on women and children first, and they fall on our communities and our way of life in the long run. Poverty used to be a transitory experience. Many of us felt it when we were students, and that kind of transitory experience is now not the case. Thank you. Please support the raise, and the commissions will help if we are able.
Dear chairs, General and Colby and committee members, my name is Tai Mano, and I'm here to share why raising the wage is important to me. First off, I'm a member of PANO, the Asian Pacific American Network Oregon, and also currently in the Asia Pacific Island Community Leadership Institute. In this program, we focus on leadership development and finding ways to improve our community. I'm also a member of the Kennedy National Community of Oregon. These are my volunteer activities I'm proud of. For my work, I make $11 an hour in a federal job. With this income, I have just enough to provide for my family. Even everything I earn with my wife goes to visiting in our kids' education. I came here to Oregon for a better life, and so that we don't have to worry anymore. Before this, we were refugees trying to escape persecution, discrimination, oppression, and terror and war. I'm very blessed to call Oregon my new home. But I'm worried about being homeless since people cannot afford to stay in their homes anymore. We live in an apartment currently, but someday I would like to buy our first home in the United States. I ask you to please increase the wage so that workers like me can achieve the American dream and provide for our families. Thank you for your time.
Chairs Denbrow, Holding, and members of the committee. My name is Sophia Stanford. I'm here from Northeast Portland, and I'm here tonight to testify in support of raising the minimum wage in Oregon. My story is somewhat unique. I'm a transgender woman who moved to Oregon last summer from California because it's more affordable in the Bay Area and has similar protections for transgender people and inclusive health care coverage. I am 36 years old. On paper, I look very employable. I have over 12 years in training in college as an R&D pilot and in spaceflight. However, I am struggling to gain employment in my profession due to lack of acceptance and outright discrimination many transgender people experience. No one will hire me, and experience, unfortunately, is not unique to transgender people across the country. In the meantime, I have been working in the service industry since coming to Oregon, first as a dishwasher at a vegan restaurant and then a full-time seasonal sales at Sears. Both jobs paid over the minimum wage, which makes it next to impossible to live on. Regrettably, my job ended after the holidays and I'm looking for work again. I rent a room for $5.50 a month and continue to try to find employment commensurate with my training and have years of debt from health care bills and the school tab of over $300,000 that have followed me to Oregon. I desperately need to make more than $9.25 an hour in order to survive. It's wonderful to be a state that works hard to create greater acceptance for transgender people who disproportionately live in poverty. Help lift us out of poverty and ensure that we have access to living wages and pass a significant increase in minimum wage this session. Thank you for the opportunity to share my story. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. Chairs Denbrough and Colby, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to submit testimony in support of raising Oregon's minimum wage. My name is Bruce Humphreys, and I'm a registered nurse working in the Bend area and a proud leader of the Oregon Nurses Association. With over 13,000 members, Oregon nurses make up the largest portion of Oregon's healthcare workforce, working in almost every healthcare setting, from large hospitals to clinics, school-based health centers, and community-based public health. It is through these diverse experiences providing patient care in our state that nurses have come to recognize raising the minimum wage is not merely an economic issue, but a critical matter of public health. According to a recent report released by the Oregon Health Equity Alliance, entitled Mend the Gap in 2014, low-income Oregonians between 138 and 200% of the poverty line, those not eligible for Medicare, Medicaid, were twice as likely as higher-income Oregonians to be uninsured and without access to health care. Moreover, Oregon nurses understand that when workers are paid a fair living wage, they are both happier and healthier as a result. Raising families out of poverty can help have enduring health benefits in our communities, including healthier births, reduced chronic disease rates, and longer lives. Studies today repeatedly show that income levels are directly linked to serious diseases like diabetes, heart disease, and arthritis. In terms of mental health impacts, people living in poverty are also now more than twice as likely to face severe depression in households with stable income. On a personal note, in addition to working as a registered nurse, I'm also a parent of a recent college graduate. My daughter graduated from Southern Oregon University in 2011 and entered a post-recession workforce that requires her to work 3 jobs in order to have enough income to provide her with basic food, rent, and gas. For these reasons, I strongly urge your action in passing a significant minimum wage increase for our state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Nancy Hagel, Craig Gore, Charlotte Richards, and Doug Rogers.
And I actually should have Christine Eckert, Billy Youngren, Jack Herbert, and Matt Moreno.
Chair Denbrough, Chair Holden, and members of the committee. I'm Nancy Heidel from Ontario, and I'd like to tell you about one of the experiences that we had there. Our representative, Cliff Vance, organized a county open meeting to invite anybody in the county, Malheur County, that wanted to come to express their opinions about the minimum wage, to come to the meeting and express them. There were almost 300 people there, which is very big. That's one of our towns, quite honestly. And there was not one person there who testified in favor of the minimum wage. Not one out of 300. Now that doesn't mean we don't have minimum wage workers. That means that our workers are glad to have a job, because you see, if they live in Idaho, they get paid $7.25. And we have over a 5% unemployment rate where we live. And Idaho has only a 3%. I currently work as an adjunct professor at Treasure Valley Community College in Ontario, where I live. I've taught part-time there for 8 years. I have master's credits, and I'm currently making $17.65 an hour with no benefits. I'm sure that people who live on this side of the state who teach at colleges make much more money than I do. But we are not the same. And if I don't want my job, I know there's somebody from Idaho that's very willing to take it, because they are paid $2 less an hour, minimum wage. Their professional jobs are also paid less too. What this is going to mean to education if we increase the minimum wage. We all know that education budgets are 75% personnel wages. And are we going to devalue education like that by making it not possible for people to go on in their education, making our classrooms bigger, with more students, cutting programs, and cutting services to our students. Let's not do a disservice to our students, and let's have an educated state. I know that's something we're all working for. Thank you very much.
Chair Dumbrell and Colby, I am Craig Ferrari from Nessa, Oregon. I've traveled over 400 miles today on icy roads because the choice you are about to make will have a huge impact on our community, our businesses, and my family. Our competition truly is 300 yards away from us. We employ in both Oregon and Idaho, and we pay $7.25 an hour to families that live locally in that area and are not guest workers. So that is available to us. Oregon is working hard to get rid of its carbon imprint. Locally grown accomplishes that by less travel, less transportation down the road. By doing this, we will make local produce much harder to come by, competing with other places, and have a larger carbon imprint. We grow 150 acres of asparagus. We take about 135 employees who work for us from March 15th to June 20th, 7 days a week. This work comes when onion packing sheds and field work is hard to come by. Each spear of asparagus is moved by hand 7 times. It is incredibly labor intense. We grow in Oregon and pack in Idaho to keep it profitable. If the minimum wage goes up, we will be forced to tear out our asparagus and no longer employ these people who are our friends, our neighbors, and our community. We will no longer produce these high-value crops, which are labor intense. There will be a larger carbon print, there will be less state revenue, and more people will become unemployed. Help us by making our area more successful by carving us out and letting us have an opportunity to succeed. Thank you.
Chair Holby and Senator Dembrow and members of the committee, I sincerely thank you for your time, because I'm sure at this point you would rather be headed home tonight, so I appreciate your listening here. When I left my home this morning, it was 5 a.m. My children were sleeping in their beds, and the sun was still behind the horizon and hadn't risen yet. And I started my travels to Salem, which was some 400 miles away from my home and my business, which lies on the Oregon-Idaho border. I reflected on what part my voice and my concerns would play as I came to this faraway place. I would ask you to not stop listening because my voice comes from a rural portion of Oregon. We are equal citizens of the state of Oregon, and my 84-year-old father started his business here some 55 years ago. And I won't lie that today I feel somewhat betrayed by my home state. This state and the governor pride themselves in representing so many minorities, many of which have been represented in this room tonight. And I ask you to remember that all minorities, including those of Eastern Oregon and rural Oregon, deserve a voice that is heard, respected, and plays a role in your decisions. I shouldn't have to leave my home at 5 a.m. and travel across snow and ice-covered roads to attend a short session for you to even think about rural Eastern Oregon. My family is real, just like yours. My children are real, and my business is real. It would be ideal if we could just raise minimum wage and reduce poverty, but our own history from the state of Oregon shows that that isn't real. Please remember, the market simply won't bear this middle ground labor increase. We operate on a 6 to 8% margin. This minimum wage increase would be a 10% increase for our expenses, which allows us to have no choice but to move our business to Idaho. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you state your name for the record?
Charlotte Richards.
Thank you.
Mr. Denver, thank you for letting me be here. My name is Doug Rogers, and I live just down the street. But I share the same concerns with my friends here who have traveled so far away. I've owned a small cafe and been an hourly worker and a salaried manager, and I've seen both sides of this issue, and I'm here to present my perspective. A person's pay should reflect their value to their company. I know a well-trained, hard-working guy who was rewarded with a promotion and wage adjustment for his contributions to the company he worked for. How would you feel when an unskilled worker off the street is paid about the same wage without first having made any contributions? That takes the incentive out of my friend's desire to work with his employer to make the business a success in the community. After all, he said, why bother going the extra mile when the state is going to pull everyone behind you through unfunded mandates? And don't forget, businesses don't really pay $15 an hour. Besides health care and sick pay, the employers pay a portion of Medicare, workman's comp, and Social Security. Federal and state unemployment taxes also need to be calculated to find the true hourly wage. Some have suggested that businesses can adjust, and they are correct. With my cafe, my choices for adjusting were to raise prices, cut hours, layoffs, downsize, and finally to close the business. I saw an excited Pro 15 supporter exclaiming, businesses can afford to give us $15 an hour because they have millions of dollars. I looked at my wife and said, where did you hide it? I don't know where it is. They're sure we had so many. But my nest egg was not perpetual, and neither is the reserve funding for any other business. Oregon is not an easy place to start and maintain a business. Look at all the for sale signs on empty storefronts. Every one of these spaces represents someone in the unemployment line. Forcing employers to pay more is not conducive to helping them stay in business. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have Christine Eckert, Bill Youngren, Jack Herbert, and Matt Marino.
And on deck, Susan Barton, Roberta Vanderwan, Joaquin Alcozer, Jenna Young, Dana Young.
Good evening. My name is Christine Eckert. I am a home care worker. My job is so very important for our community. It is important because we are in a time where people need a lot of help. There are a lot of people that are housebound out there that need this help. I have been a home care worker for 18 years. I have one client who who wasn't even eating at all after his wife died. He had begun to have effects with his health. He also had no one to come in and care for him. He was delivered Meals on Wheels, which I happened to be a volunteer of and saw that need. So I went in and became his caregiver. And after that, I've been helping many people in my community. And without this help, these people who are elderly or disabled cannot go out without eating, bathing, or shopping for their basic needs. Imagine if you were a mother or a grandfather at home without help. This job I do is very important. Not only do the elderly and the disabled need to help, but so do we, the workers who care for them. We can't even afford to keep up our cars running or even put gas in them. It is impossible to survive on less than $15 an hour. Most home care workers who are not working through the state are making barely above minimum wage, and it is impossible to meet our needs with those kind of low wages. Now it's your turn to show us that you care. Please raise the minimum wage. Thank you.
Chairs Denver and Holby and members of the committee, my name is Bill Youngman, and I'm a certified nurse's assistant at Mantle Children's Hospital in Legacy, Mantle. I'm also a member of SEIU Local 49. As a CNA, I've spent the last 26 years of my career working in pediatrics, regularly seeing the ramifications of low wages in Oregon. Where I work at the PICU Pediatric Intensive Care Unit, you only see kids who are severely sick and somewhat make it. Even with their child's life on the line, I've seen families look at the bill and ask themselves, what can we afford? I've seen them ask for a la carte menus. They're trying to tear down, while the kid is in critical care and they can only do bare minimum. I frequently see people who are struggling, having to make a choice that boils down to whether they can afford to save their child's life. It is truly cruel. If these are decisions parents are making when it's often a matter of life or death, I can't help but imagine that similar decisions are being made when it comes to housing, transportation, and food. No parent who works full-time should have to choose between providing a roof, a meal, or life-saving health care for their child. If families in Oregon are making these decisions every day, raising the minimum wage to a level that truly provides self-sufficiency is critical to making this a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you for being here and listening to us. My name is Jack Herbert. I'm retired from a public service job at DEQ. Tier 1 on PERS. You know, Tier 1 is way gone. Times are changing. My 29-year-old son and other young people and most people who do not have established careers or businesses are living in a third world country. That's life for them. And we let that happen. Those who go to college get debts they can't pay off, or they have to drop out of college, and lots can't afford college. You can move us out, many of these people out of the third world by moving from $15 an hour minimum wage and higher and allowing, in Portland, allowing the municipalities to raise the minimum wage if they need to, and also to impose local rent control. We need to allow that. Because, you know, the rent control is going to clog with the wage increase. I mean, the rent explosion. And the increase in income will obviously increase businesses and allow more people to be hired. And you don't take my word for it. You know, there are plenty of studies out there, so it's not a matter of argument. We'll also, you know, this will also cut costs for the Oregon Health Plan and other welfare. And you will get increased tax revenue. From that revenue, then you need to get creative and use it well. And there's fixed people on fixed income, you now have more money, and you need to use it for them. Those ones that aren't being helped by the minimum wage. And you will get this better. The Great Depression of the 30s didn't end until we got so scared by the bombing of Pearl Harbor that we pulled all the savings we've been hanging on to and hired ourselves and put ourselves to work and got the economy we could have had all along. If we just had the courage to do it together. So raising our minimum wage similarly injects the money into the economy and gets it circulating. What does this mean here? Out of time? Okay. And I'd say that our growth problems, like those of our mills, on our forests, the logging, those are due to the dropping of tariff protections which we need so that they don't compete unfairly.
Thank you.
Members of the committee, my name is Matt Marino. I work as a canvasser in Portland. I'm disappointed in the governor's plan. I see it as a cynical attempt to divide workers between urban and rural. The governor said that raising the wage won't solve the housing crisis in Portland. I'd like to focus on this. I've volunteered with this campaign for over a year, and I think that the strength of our movement stems from the intersectionality our demand has with other movements. Last year, while working as a canvasser, we organized a union. We fought for 15 by voting yes for the union. It shouldn't surprise you that workers who bring in the union face retaliation. We at 15 now have been pushing to repeal preemption and restore local control of the cities. Other groups are fighting to lift the preemption law on inclusionary zoning. But no one is making a credible push for rent control. Due to arbitrary rent increases, tenants face the same discriminatory practices that union members face in the workplace. They use the no-cause evictions to discriminate against vulnerable groups in our community and force people out into economically blighted neighborhoods. When I canvass in Portland, in Senator Dembro's district, in Rob Nose's district, in Representative Fagan's district, people tell me that they don't think that the city and the legislature really represent them. They tell me that they think that the legislature and City Hall is in the pocket of the developers and the business alliance. This needs to change. Our movement is about building a movement of workers around to tackle all kinds of issues and to win real material gains that haven't been seen in decades. And we see this all across the country. And I think that I take a lot of heart in it, that people are standing up and fighting.
Susan Barton, Roberta Vanderwall, Joaquin Alcozer, and Dana Young.
And on deck, we should have Jennifer Maynard, Marissa Torres, Ariel Bada, and Allison Acosta Vega.
Chair Hovey, Chair Dunbrow, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Susan Martin. I am from Nissa, Oregon, 480 plus miles and one time zone away from this location. Senators and representatives, I am concerned. I am concerned about my community. I am concerned about empty buildings. I am concerned about businesses that are struggling. I'm concerned about my neighbors. I took pictures of Logan skiing as he harvested onions this year. It's a beautiful sight. I love my community, and I love the farmers who put the food on your table and who feed the world, literally. I'm concerned about the businesses and the employers in my community. I'm concerned that they give back so much to our community, and yet so much is asked of them. And they have employees that they are concerned about. And I'm concerned for those employees that are going to lose their jobs. I'm concerned for our seniors. We don't have public transportation in this Oregon. We have one grocery store. A grocery store is owned by a corporation that is based out of Idaho. They have 2 stores in Idaho and the 1 store in Nissa. I'm concerned because AgriService, which is a business in Nissa that provides farm implements and service to those farm implements, has broken ground in Idaho. They're moving. Another empty business in Nissa. Oh, this is not good business. We've worked so hard in economic development with our chambers and our businesses to bring in new businesses, to expand the ones that exist and bring others that are looking for a great place to settle. And what better place than Oregon? From the Snake River to the shore of the Pacific. This is not good business. It's not a good business decision, and I am concerned. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, Chairman Dembrow and Holly. Thank you so much, committee. My name is Roberta Vanderwall, and I'm the city manager of Nissa. Nissa is a small town of about 3,270 people, so very, very small. I come as a little bit of a different perspective than what you've heard all day or this evening. Number one, you know, the minimum wage was not created to sustain a family. It wasn't made so that you didn't have to do something else. So I think this is the approach that everybody's talked about tonight. Number one is wrong. I mean, we all started at a minimum wage, but it's wrong, and we can't sustain a family or a mother with a child on that wage. But that's not what it was here for. So as a city, we employ about 23 people that are full-time and part-time. The impact that any wage increase will be devastating to our community. I'm here to support our businesses of Nissa and Malheur County. The state and the federal government has come into Nissa and has mandated that the city put in a new wastewater treatment plant in the amount of $8 million plus, okay? Then they come in and mandate, the EPA says that our arsenic is too bad and our levels are too high. So now we have to put in a $6.2 million plant to fix the water we all drank for 50, 80 years. The water didn't change, the rules changed. So if all these businesses that have talked to us today and talked to you move to Idaho because they can't afford to operate in Oregon, who are going to pay those bills? So now the state's now mandating a higher wage, a minimum wage. We're not going to have people there. They will go away. So thank you for your time.
Chairman Hovey and Chairman Dembrow. Okay, my name is Joaquin Officer, and I've been a farm labor contractor for about 34 years. Last year, through my payroll, 270 people went through my payroll. And from what I see with this minimum wage going up, I bet you I'm going to be cut out of 3/4 or nothing. Or I will have to follow my fellow farmers to Idaho also. And also, a gentleman said, I don't know if it's 725. I have to say to him that today, as I was traveling here, I have 2 ladies from Idaho that were working for me in Ontario for the new 925. What I see that's going to happen now in this Ontario, Oregon, is a lot of houses are going to be left because people aren't going to be able to afford to pay the mortgage. This year alone, 4 of my employees bought homes. And right now, I know they're thinking that, oh, great, the minimum is going to go up. We can all buy. And they're probably going to start buying. And next year, if this minimum shows up, the block is really going to hit them. And so they're going to find out, where do I work now? How am I going to do this? And we're going to go back to square one and get houses for sale in Ontario. So, it all boils down to, this side of the state is one thing, our side of the state is another. We're comfortable with where we're at right now. I decided to say goodbye. Support us if you can, please. Thank you.
Well, good evening, Chair Denbrough, Chair Holby. My name is Dana Young, and I'm the president at Treasure Valley Community College in Ontario, Oregon. It is really clear to me that we have a very diverse state with very differing needs. And I respect everyone's opinion and everyone's truth, because this is everyone's truth that you're hearing this evening. An increase in minimum wage to $15 per hour across the state will increase wages at Treasure Valley Community College by $518,375 the first year. When adding payroll benefits, wage compression, and PERS benefit increases to this number, we will see that escalate to nearly $650,000. In addition, with the loss of local property tax revenue due to pending mass exodus of businesses, this could be an increase in expenses and a loss in revenues totaling nearly $1 million. In fact, you've heard it here tonight in a recent town hall meeting. You're hearing our onion growers, hardware store owners, restaurants, grocery store owners, all talking about getting out of here. So getting out of here, either going to Idaho or just shutting down businesses altogether. The direct impact to Treasure Valley Community College will mean cutting academic programs, laying off employees, raising tuition and fees, costs to students, all at the same time that we are working very hard in Malheur County to raise the college-going culture, as we have a high rate of low-income students who are first generation, whose parents have never attended college. We're working very hard at that. I don't want to raise tuition and fees for them, but if my expenses go up, I cut programs and raise tuition and fees. You know the story. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thanks for Dave. So Jennifer Maynard, Marissa Torres, Gary Albano, and Allison Costa-Vega.
On deck, John Dillon, Charles Massey, Mike McCarthy, Elena Turpin.
Good evening. My name is Ariel Boda, and I'm a home care worker. I have lived here in Salem and provided home care to 4 clients in Salem. I'm here to testify in supporting of raising the minimum wage. I have been providing care for about 18 years, and I am paid about $12 an hour, which is high for home care pay, but still not enough to live on. I live in a manufactured home, and unfortunately the rent has just gone up $400. And my rent is down more than my income, which I have had to rent 2 of my rooms out just to make ends meet. I worry all the time about being able to pay my electric and other bills, and have had to pawn jewelry trying to pay them from time to time. I have a 13-year-old car I use for work. Last year, I was just able to afford tires on it. And in August, the transmission went out. I can't fix it right now. This means that sometimes I have to walk 3.5 hours to get to my client. That's just one way. Or if I can ride my bike, if it's nice, it's 1.5 hour bike ride. When I need to take my clients to grocery stores or to a doctor's appointment, I'm lucky if I can borrow my mom's car if she's not using it for work. My clients sometimes tell me that they think the pay for home care workers is too low and sometimes try to give me extra money. Unfortunately, not being able to take it, it does affect me and them. Other home care workers I know split because it's too low. And when clients have to have new caregivers, it's hard on them. Even their families get confused and with new home care workers. If minimum wage is increased, it means that I can worry less and pay my bills and have more of a security. Thank you.
My name is Vanessa Torres, and I'm a social work student at the University of Portland. I'm here today because I've experienced what it's like to grow up with a parent who earns low wages. When I was 3 years old, my father left me my mother, and she was working for a law firm at the time, but she was a secretary working for minimum wage. My father took the car, so we had no transportation when he left. We couldn't pay the bills anymore, so we moved in with my aunt and uncle. After that, we were placed on the list for housing, and we lived in a hotel for 4 to 6 months. Then we moved into an apartment, and later a house, all subsidized housing. It took us a long time to get where we are today. During the summers, I still go back and live with my mom, and I try to get a job to help her pay the bills. Home is Nevada, where the minimum wage is only $7.25. During the school year, I have been a full-time student so far, debt is starting to pile up. Student loans are the only way I can afford school. I remember when I was applying to college, my mom cried because she realized that she couldn't help me pay for it. So we both took the loans out. I think I have 5 different loans to pay off when I graduate. I'm trying to find a job, but I haven't been able to find one yet. Right now, I try to work on campus, doing everything I can. Maybe at a local grocery store. Sometimes I feel like I don't belong here because I have no money. It's really hard. If my mom had been making more money, we certainly could have been afforded bills. I think it's important for people to know the struggle. It's not as easy as just getting a job and getting an income and actually taking care of your family. Because one person working for a family of 4 on low wages just won't be able to make it. I urge you to pass the minimum wage increase. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Maynard. I'm a care provider. I've worked for United Cerebral Palsy for nearly 7 years, doing important life-saving, independence fostering humanitarian work at the unhealthy wage of $10.35 an hour. I'm a McNair Scholar with a Bachelor's of Science in Psychology and 20 years in hospitality. I'm curious about people, empathetic, and skilled. I want to do ethical, meaningful work. I'm also adaptable and resilient, but that doesn't pay the bills, nor does my complacency with a poverty-level wage. The catch-22 here is that moving up at UCP or into other positions in the field would only land me deeper in poverty with greater time commitments and a nominal 25-cent raise, even as a manager. I want to do ethical, meaningful work, but you need to raise my wage so I can be healthy, effective, and have a reasonable quality of life for myself and my children. $10.35 means that I suffer. When I get sick, I can't afford the copay for my health care, let alone healthy food at times and access to safe living spaces. $10.35 equates to poverty, which has led me to live with black mold. I had to begin going to allergy and asthma clinic due to these living environments, but couldn't continue due to cost. I became depressed, but could only attend one appointment with a mental health counselor through Kaiser due to the limited availability being Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, when I was scheduled to work. I was experiencing the symptoms of learned helplessness due to the fabric and systems of our society being blind to reality. I started a second job with the county and then a third driving for Radio Cab. My client with the county had a bipolar episode, firing all of her providers. Luckily at that time it was pre-Uber and I was able to save money for the first time in over 5 years. Working 88 hours a week is the only thing that keeps my rent paid, bills at bay, and food on my table. It's been a marathon of extreme endurance. This is your chance to support the growth of middle-class Americans and in turn supporting our already marginalized citizens in the disabilities communities with retaining quality care providers. Thank you for being agents of change and raising my wage to $15 an hour.
Thank you very much.
John Dillon, Charles Massey, Mike McCarthy, and
While they're coming up, on deck, we'll have Patty Kimball-Schmidt, Rebecca Alexander, Shoya Atkinson-Stevens, and Sam Earl.
go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Mr. Chairman, Mike McCarthy. I'm a farmer from Hood River County, raise apples, pears, cherries, cows, and hay, and I'm totally opposed to an increase in the minimum wage. There's really three reasons. An increase in the minimum wage will cause the demise of family farms in Hood River County. No studies have been done on the impact of these wage increases on family farms in the state of Oregon. Fruit farmers in Hood River County cannot alter their prices to recover these increased costs. And tree fruits are some of the most labor-intensive crops that are grown in the United States. We grow a labor-intensive crop, we plant by hand, we train our trees by hand, we tie them to wires by hand, we prune by hand, we cut out bacterial infections by hand, we thin by hand, and we harvest by hand. An increased cost of $13.50 an hour would mean that the average farmer in Hood River County has additional $90,000 per year in labor costs. There are not profits to cover this. What that means is that all the family farms in Hood River County, which is one of the smallest counties in the state, really very few farmers, very few, a small amount of farmland. But for those farmers, it's $21 million a year in additional costs. Those are additional costs. There's no profits to cover that. Farmers would not be making the minimum wage of $9.25 if this were to occur. We cannot just adjust our prices. Fruit farmers cannot adjust their prices for new labor costs. We cannot tack on these new costs. We cannot sell our fruit in the Portland market and just ask for more. We have to sell in world markets. We're a commodity market. We get what the market dictates. We get what Walmart will pay. We get what China will pay. We get what Mexico will pay. None of the buyers care what our minimum wage is. None of them will let us add more costs. This attack on the family farm will cause a takeover by large corporate farms, and we'll lose a lot of family farms in Hood River. Thank you.
Chair Jimbo and Colby, thank you. My name is John Dillon. I'm the publisher of the Argus Observer in Ontario. I do travel almost 400 miles today, and again, we'll turn around and travel back tonight. The newspaper is the daily newspaper in Ontario, and we are lucky enough to have a press. And I'm here to give you, share with you an example of how any increase would equal a loss of jobs. We are unlike a lot of newspapers today. We still have a press. We still print our daily newspaper. We still print our 2 weekly newspapers. And we also have commercial printing for 2 small newspapers in Oregon and 1 in Idaho. For the last 12 years, the newspaper in NIM, which is 35 miles away, has presented me with a bid to print our newspaper. It would be shutting my press down, removing my press, and mailroom, which is the packaging of the newspaper. For 12 years, I've been able to say we can still do it cheaper. I've wanted to protect the jobs that we have. As the Oregon minimum wage increased, every year that bid comes, and my cost difference gets less and less. This last bid I have is pretty even. Any cost would increase the minimum wage I would probably lose 15 employees. They're not all minimum wage employees. I think I would have 9 minimum wage employees and 6 higher wage employees, 2 managers even. So I would encourage you to consider Mount Hood County and what it would do to us, how I try to protect my jobs, my employees, and thank you for your time.
Chair Denbrock, Chair Holby, my name is Elena Turpin, and I am the Director of Membership for the Kaiser Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here for our small businesses. I heard from several small businesses, and I'm just going to be a small sampling of what they said. This is James Taylor. He owns an automotive shop, Jet Automotive. If minimum wage went up, I would have to raise my rate to my customers by a minimum of $10 an hour.
just to cover the cost of increased wages, taxes, and workman comp. In doing this, it would be a strain on many of my customers who are on fixed incomes and would no longer be able to afford to fix their vehicles. Let's see. James Marshall owns the Delaney Madison Grill. He employs 30 to 35 people depending on the season. 80% of those are making minimum wage. It's about 600 hours a week. They are barely making it right now. He says he has not taken a salary since he took over the business a year and a half ago. The sick leave mandate alone has put a huge burden on their business, and to add an increase in minimum wage would put them out of business. This is Chris Romaine. They have a Clean Energy Comfort. It's a heating and air conditioning. And it says currently we do not use minimum wage as the base wage. We start new trainees out at $12 an hour and move them up quickly as they gain the necessary experience. This method allows us to transition people from outside our industry and train them on our trade and hopefully get them started in a career. If the minimum wage was raised, it would lessen our ability to use this training and hiring method and therefore keep people who we may have hired and started on a career path from ever landing that entry-level position. We would turn away people who don't have experience for those that do. Thank you.
Mr. Chairs, Kimbrough and Hobby, thanks for allowing me to speak to you today. My name is Sam Carroll. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the YMCA of Marion and Polk Counties. And it's a very difficult position to be in a nonprofit where we serve people who struggle at minimum wage, yet we serve those who struggle at the middle income bracket. Our organization, which has moved to $13 an hour, will have to generate an additional $2,000 a day in net income to still provide the services that we provide to children and families, early childhood care, and after-school programs, summer care. This is a huge impact, especially on a nonprofit with little or no margin when it comes to the end of the year. So I know it's a very difficult decision you have to make. However, please consider everything, and especially the nonprofits that serve the community and serve those who have need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Patty Campbell-Smith, Rebecca Alexander, Toya Atkinson-Stevens, and I did call Josh Hanks, so if you could come up.
And on deck, Matt Lucanoli, Tyler Wagstaff, Spencer Raylan, and Dennis Bowman.
And colleagues, before you get started, our hope is to end this during 8:30. I think we've done other things. Certainly, if you need to leave, we understand. We'll keep this going. I think we should be finished by now.
Good evening. Good evening, Chairs Denbrow and Colby and the committee. Thanks so much for the opportunity to testify. My name for the record is Toya Atkinson-Stevens, and I work at the Oregon Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. I'm here on behalf of my boss, our Executive Director, Vanessa Timmons. She was unable to make it at the last minute. I'm here to, I want to tell you a little bit about what we do. We support the domestic and sexual violence programs all around the state. So we make sure that the advocates who do direct service to survivors of abuse have what they need to do their jobs well. I'm testifying in favor of raising the minimum wage. In particular, I speak in support of the bill advocating a state minimum of $13.50 that includes restaurant, farm, and domestic workers, and that allows municipalities to set their own minimum wage at rates higher than state minimums. My recommendations are based on decades of experience supporting survivors of domestic and sexual violence, and also supporting advocates who work in this field. Most advocates are women, many survivors are women, and many are people of color, two groups proportionally represented in low-wage jobs and affected by poverty. I think earlier we heard Robin Morris-Collin from the Oregon Commission for Black Affairs make that very plain to us. Minimum wage is an issue of justice, and it is an issue of safety. For survivors of intimate partner violence, not having financial resource is often a primary barrier to leaving abusive relationships and getting safe. Poor people, women in particular, are not more likely to experience abuse, but abuse is more likely to confine them. Getting out and getting free, pursuing a self-determined life requires sustainable income, and when someone leaves abuse, a living wage is one of the most important elements to staying safe and free. In summary, I would like to emphasize my support for raising the minimum wage and the necessity of including all workers, especially those most vulnerable to economic exploitation who are sometimes exempt from such protections. Survivors of intimate partner and sexual violence need this raise, and advocates need this raise. Thank you for your time.
My name is Rebecca Alexander. I work for Bradley Anko, a domestic violence organization serving survivors in Portland, Oregon. And I'm going a little off script today. I'll be a little brief because I'm not feeling very well. But I just wanted to react to some of the comments that I've heard earlier this evening. In particular, the comments of the city manager of Oregon, who referenced that the minimum wage was never intended to be a living wage for families. I saw a lot of nods around the room around that statement, and I've heard it before. It's troubling to me, though, because regardless of the intent, that is certainly the impact. What we know is that in the state of Oregon, the average minimum wage worker is a woman. She's about 35 years old, and she's very likely to raise children. That is the population that we're most likely to see at Bradley Anko, and I can tell you that financial security is the number one reason that people don't come to us, that don't seek services and support to get safe. This is a life and death issue for the people that we serve, and we have a responsibility to provide all people in our community with a true choice, especially when they're working a full-time job. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the chairs and the committee for having us here and allowing us to speak. For the record, my name is Joshua Hanks. I'm here with Board Buildings for 15. I'm a retail worker in Beaverton, and I live in East Portland. I'm not in an entry-level position. I'm a supervisor, but I do make less than $11 an hour. And like many my age, I'm saddled with student loan debt without benefiting financially from a college education. Without my partner shouldering part of the bills, I would not make it. Working people in this state and throughout the nation are struggling to scrape by while corporations make fabulous profits. I support a ballot initiative to implement a $15 wage within 3 years. From Portland to the coast in Eastern Oregon, workers are struggling, and we all deserve at least 15. The local exemption must also be lifted, which the legislator is not proposing. I support a ballot initiative that does this. A common theme in opposition to an increased wage is that businesses will relocate or automate. This is nothing more than economic intimidation. These economic interests are holding the whole state hostage, and we cannot let them threaten or coerce us. They're forcing us to accept poverty wages or unemployment and even more grinding poverty. If that's the freedom of choice offered under capitalism, I won't accept it. I've heard an increased wage described as socialist redistribution of wealth, but let's remember that it is working people who create all wealth. The most massive transfer of wealth in history has been from workers who produce all value to capitalists who own the means of production and appropriate the surplus value we create. An increased minimum wage merely gives back to workers a small portion of the mountain of value that we create. Beyond an increased wage, working people in Oregon must fight for a massive program of public housing. Private developers have failed to provide affordable housing, especially in the Portland metro area. We need a jobs program that can also help repair our vulnerable infrastructure, and a single-payer health insurance program that places healthcare decisions into the hands of doctors and patients, not profit-driven corporate bureaucrats. Thank you for your time.